Cool. Hello, everybody. Welcome to the NUFC360 podcast. We've been away for a little bit of an extended period now. We've got two games to talk about that we've not been here to review. I'm joined today by, we've run out of other marks, bald marks in particular. So we got one with hair this time. We've got Mark joining us, and we've got Bo as per usual. Lads, how are you both doing?
Good.
Doing well. Team's flying.
Doing well. Absolutely. I mean, we since our last episode, Bo, with Ryan when he was around, we previewed going into the cup game against Brentford after the first victory against them, losing away 4-2. We managed to beat them 3-1, and really it was 3-0 for the vast majority of that match. Coming to you first, Bo, what did you make of that cup game against Brentford?
It was a great win. I mean, we talked about it last time, how we really needed to attack and be on the front foot, especially since Brentford is such a terrible team away from home. Wanted to make sure that we could kind of grow into the game and make sure that they were not feeling more confident than they should. And we did. I mean, I think from the onslaught, it was, a lot of pressing, a lot of good moves, a lot of good passing. And it's great to see it paid off.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, one of the things I found very amusing on the day, because I mean, like Mark here, I mean, I go to a lot of the home games, and on the way in to the ground with my dad, we were saying that now that Tonali is starting a lot, he needs that sort of welcome back moment, and he needed to score, and it was very coincidental. We weren't saying we predicted it, but we were saying this would be a good game for it to happen, and he scores twice, two excellent strikes as well. Mark, in terms of not just Tonali, but we can focus on Tonali briefly. Who were your standouts, and obviously how happy were you that Tonali got a couple goals?
Well, I was buzzing. Unfortunately, unlike you, I wasn't able to get to the game because of a bug that struck us down just on the same day. So I ended up having to watch it on Sky. And this is probably in the best way possible, but when it got to the second half, I was bored because the game was done, and it was just sort of like they're just seeing out the game. It was like a routine performance and it probably wasn't what I expected. When you look at the fact that this Brentford team, we lost 4-2 to just a few weeks ago, we seem to do that. We'll lose away in the league to a team in London, and then we'll come and beat them in the cup. It seems to be our routine. Fingers crossed that routine continues in the semi-finals. But I do think this was probably the welcome back for Sandro Tonali, and it's what everyone's been crying out for. It's what he's good at. Yes, he's great at doing the deeper lying role, which is what he's been asked to do. But Eddie gives them the freedom there. So if there is that chance, he'll go forward and he'll do it. And like I said, two fantastic finishes. My standout is, and I don't know whether or not either Jason Tyndall's been going on an intense course in new set pieces, or we've got someone else doing them. But set pieces seem to be a threat now for us. In terms of when we went so long without them, we seem to be capable of doing that, and some really good routines that have been worked up. It was just routine. People didn't really have to do a lot. I think maybe the more surprising thing for me was that Buemo was on the bench for Brentford. That was maybe the most surprising thing.
I do think Brentford are probably trying to keep themselves fresh for the league. I don't think they really see themselves as too much of a threat in the cups. I think they're trying to, after the relegation scare they had last season, finishing quite low down, I'd imagine they're trying to keep themselves fresh for the Premier League. They also, their players are normally better than that. I mean, they were away from home. They are, until recently, until Southampton took over that top spot, they were the worst team in the league away from home. We talked about it in the preview. They're really, really bad when they don't have what is a small but boisterous GTEC Community Stadium in Brentford. You mentioned the set pieces. I agree a lot. I mean, I think a big part is that you taking out a player like Sean Longstaff from the game, who he has a lot of utility, but he doesn't really play too much of a part in set pieces. And you bring in starter of the quality of Sandro Tonali, who takes set pieces for Italy, who took them from Milan. And clearly he's 2-footed. He's very ambipedal. He can be a part of it from either foot. He can also shoot, as we saw. I think it opens up a lot of different avenues for us in the game. I mean, the 2 goals he scored, the first one was just perfect technique. Look, all the commentators who talked about that particular goal, he got right over the ball. He very little backlift. He sort of on the outside of his laces and just sort of drove it away from Mark Flecken, who had a particularly poor game as well, which didn't help himself. And then the second one was just this sort of acrobatic Zlatan-esque jump into the air and just hoof it in from a little bit out. And everyone was willing him on to get a hat trick. It would have been very funny if Sandro Tonali got a hat trick before Alexander Isak. And mentioning our resident, one of our 2 favorite Swedes alongside Emil Kraft, we won't make mention of the Swede that we have on NUFC360. Going on to our next game.
Is he still part of it?
I thought he must be. I think he's in some kind of Swedish communist gulag that they have in their winter shutdown. Speaking of Alexander Isak and hat tricks, he's finally got one. Finally, against what is one of the worst sides in the league, sure, but against Ipswich the other day, a couple of days ago, a 4-0 win away from home, which is not a regular sight for us in the last season and a half. Bo, what did you make of that game, and did you have any particular standout moments or standout players?
Yeah, no, great game, great performance by the whole team. With Alex's hat trick, I think he's now 6 all time for goal scorers for us. I think he actually tied with Les Ferdinand. So super exciting to see. Team played great as a whole. It was really good to see everybody kind of just, 1, having some really good movement, and 2, finishing chances for the most part. I think we can all agree if we were 100% on our game, it probably would have ended up like another Sheffield United last year. But still, 4 goals is nothing to sneeze at, and being able to score that much, it's nice to see, especially back to back. Having a couple games back to back where we're scoring at least 3 goals is really good for team morale. Honestly, in terms of great performances, we even said this I said this last show and a couple of shows before. I've been very hard on Jacob Murphy.
I knew this is where I was going. Yeah,
I've been one of the types who feels like he kind of just takes up space, and he does try hard, but at the same time, there are so many little things that I always find myself getting mad at him for. But he did play very, very well. I mean, that back heel for that final Isak goal was mixed.
He was returning the favor for the assist he got off Isak against Everton last season.
Yeah. Honestly, those were 2 peas in a pod, in my opinion, and it really is nice to see him playing well. I don't know if I still trust him for the future, but if this is his little purple patch, similar to what Miggy did a year or 2 ago, I'm all for that. So I will give plaudits to Jacob Murphy for putting a shift in.
I mean, we always say, right, that we're perfectly happy to have him in as a sort of backup, as a rotational player, right? He's got all of the physical tools and the ability to do stuff. It's always just seemed like, I'd imagine it's really what happens when you have 2 years of Steve Bruce coaching you. All of your decision making just goes out the window. He's got, he's such a likable personality, and him doing well, it's a very pleasant thing to see because he's very well liked in the team. The fan base love him. He's obviously a boyhood Newcastle United fan. And yeah, like you said, I think this is his sort of purple patch at the moment. I think the more fluid we are, the less we rely on him to be a defensive presence, because I don't think that's a strength of it. I think he applies himself. I don't think his tracking back is the best part of his game. We seem to be able to get him into space at the moment, and he seems to thrive when he has a Bruno or Tonali just behind him, and Isak, who is moving over to the right hand side, who can sort of interplay, so he can play the balls in behind, and he can sort of put in early crosses into the box. I think in terms of my particular standouts, obviously, Alexander Isak scoring a hat trick. He had, much like we talk about the reverse of Isak giving Murphy an assist against Everton, Isak also had a Murphy moment in his one-on-one against Ariane at Murich. That I could hear John Anderson in my head against. Was it Watford? What was it? Watford. The game we played when it just put it in the net. I think it was that kind of moment because he was one-on-one. He scores so many goals that are better than that. Like he scores better than tap-ins. You know, you look at the goal he scored against Liverpool. Look at a couple of goals he scored against Ipswich, and then you look at that one-on-one against Murich, and it's like just put it round him. He scored. I think he's definitely like this is what he's like not being at his best, and he's still scoring a lot of goals. I think I saw a graphic the other day. In 22 games in all competitions for club and country this season, he's got 20 goal involvements. So, you know, he's still having a really good season statistically, but we know watching him every game, he could be scoring 2 goals a game at the moment, on average. Like the guy, there's more to come from him. And then Eddie Howe talked about him in the pre-Villa press conference that came out. I think the video came out today on the Newcastle United YouTube page. You know, he doesn't need to add anything else to his game. He just needs to refine it, and he just needs to just sort of tighten the bolts a little bit. And you know, we know how good he can be. We saw how good he was last season. The guy is an absolute superstar. This is why Arsenal fans are obsessed with the idea of signing him. They think they're going to sign him for 65 million quid or some ludicrously low number because they think he would fix all of their problems. You know, he fixes a lot of our problems by scoring a lot of our goals. My other standouts. I've got 2 other standouts that I would give. One of them, in honor of him not being here, because Mark's such a big fan of him. He hasn't had much to do, but I think we mentioned it briefly in the group chat we have outside of this show, right? That Martin Dubravka, since coming back in to the team, has really stepped up in some of his form recently. We haven't played the best teams, that is true, but part of the reason why we beat them as handily as we have is because we've played well. And Dubravka's made some saves when he's had to. The only goal he's conceded in the last few games has been one that he couldn't really stop because it was more due to poor defending and slow back centre backs than it was, you know, him being beaten by Johan Wissa. And I think one thing that we should probably highlight is his ball playing has seemingly gotten better. Yep. He's clearly put in a lot of work since playing a lot last season. In his passing, like when we usually compare Nick Pope and Martin Dubravka, we normally say, you know, Dubravka's a little better than Pope with the ball at his feet, and you know, he's nothing amazing, but he's been positively decent. He's been good with the ball at his feet. He's not Alisson or Ederson or anyone like that, but he's good enough to pop a pass in between the centre back or past the strikers into midfield, and he can lob a gentle ball over a defender to out wide and stuff, and it's been a little impressive. And I know we joke about him, you know, not being able to come off his line, but he's improved in that a little bit as well. The team isn't quite as hesitant with him on the back in goal as they have been in the past, and I think he definitely deserves an honourable mention. And I think the other one is just the young lad who just continues to be more consistent and continues to get better is just Lewis Hall. Like we can wax lyrical about him pretty much every episode at this rate. The lad's scary good. Like I was saying to my dad yesterday that, you know, you look at the links between Bruno and City, like for a January transfer, right? The other guy in the team who would also be really scary to watch under a coach like Pep Guardiola would be Lewis Hall. Yeah. Like you look at him against Ipswich, you look at him against Brentford and Leicester. You know, he's really defensively sound now. He barely ever gets beaten unless, you know, he's caught way too far outfield, which happens in counterattacks. And his cross, we could have scored a goal against the Ipswich from Bruno's header from an absolute, because we didn't score it, it doesn't get talked about. But Lewis Hall put in a picture perfect cross with a wand of a left foot into the box, a perfect spot in the box. You think maybe of Isak on the end of it, or someone maybe a bit more accustomed to scoring headers. I say that now, remembering that Bruno scored one against Leicester.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's true. I think it could have been scored. It came off the post. It could have gone in. That if we a little bit more luck, that could have gone in. That's a 5-0, and we've got maybe one of the crosses of the season up. Lewis Holland left hand side, Anthony Gordon on the right hand side against Arsenal. I think the three of them in particular. I think Bruno was also good. He got a lot of shout outs from Ipswich fans who've been very complimentary on social media since the game last couple of days. I mean, a lot of them have just been saying they just got outplayed by a better side. Which I agree with. But yeah, I think those are my standouts. I mean, Mark, for the game itself, is there anyone that I've left off that you wanted to give a shout out for? And the one that I'd maybe ask a question on is, how much more approval do you give Lewis Miley's haircut now that he's come back, since he's not got that stupid straight fringe? And also, how good is it to see him come back from his injury?
Oh, yeah. Look, any player, it's great to see come back from an injury. But for a local lad like him, the one who probably got thrust into it last season, and that too early because of the injury crisis that we had, and he did so well. But again, what I think we've noticed when he's came back is he spent a lot of time, during his rehabilitation, getting the strength and building up the muscle mass of his body, and he looks more like as if he can hold it. Because that was the one thing, he was getting knocked off the ball quite a lot. I don't think that's going to be the problem this season. And
I think Eddie Howe said he's got a man's body now.
Exactly, but it's like, well, what a problem to have. You think we missed Joel? Joel Linton was missing for the suspension. I don't think Joe Willock had his best game, but he's certainly not his worst. I don't think Gordon was necessarily at his best, but he was still good enough.
Should have scored.
Yeah. So should Isak in the first half, which we all know I was not happy about. But I think my anger sort of like pushed him on to do that. I also think,
sure.
But I'm going to say, I do think a lot of praise has to be given to Eddie Howe, because this is a game where I just had in my mind, I was going, he's probably going to put Longstaff in. Just in that, but he didn't, and he put the Willock in, which was the right decision for that game. And he's done that. He's now, what every Newcastle fan's been screaming about, putting Tonali in the six. Just those little refinements. And I know Alan Gio on Match of the Day picked it up, and he says, look, that partnership between Bruno and Tonali is working now. That we've now got a midfield. When he said, how can you get Joel Linton, Bruno and Tonali right now? Well, we've got it, and it does look good. I just think the Jacob Murphy has probably had one of the best games I've seen for him against Ipswich. I just thought he was phenomenal, and like I said, that assist, the back heel, I'm like, is that Jacob Murphy or Lionel Messi on the big? Which one is it? I also did, like I said, you've said it as well, but a lot of praise to the Ipswich fans, because unlike some other fans of other teams, let's say a team that plays in London who's in red and white.
I mean, a team that we might be playing in the EFL Cup in a couple weeks.
Yeah. The Ipswich fans, they were gracious in that. Whether or not it's obviously we've got that relationship because of Sir Bobby Robson, so there's that little bit of sort of like kinship there. I've always had a respect for like Ipswich as a club and the fan base and that. And do you know what, they try and play the right way. I do think we were helped a lot by the fact that another Geordie, Leif Davis, their left back, was so intent on pushing forward and trying to close down, and he was like really pressing up, which meant that Jacob Murphy was able to exploit that. And I think Eddie Howe knew that as well, because that was something that was exploited and we worked on.
Well, it's a key part of Ipswich's game normally, right?
Yeah.
And normally Leif Davis press. I mean, the Ipswich fans themselves were complaining that when you're missing a guy like Liam Delap, who is the focal point, why are you pushing Leif Davis all that way up the pitch? Because then you're just asking for trouble when you're asking one guy to take himself out of the defensive game plan, and you're missing the guy that a normal game plan A usually facilitates. And I think, I definitely agree on Leif Davis being a bit too high up the pitch. And, you mentioned them playing the right way. There's merits to sticking to your guns. And, I would hope that a coach as highly regarded as Kieran McKenna would be able to be a bit more pragmatic, maybe. But, we saw it with Vincent Kompany last year. If you come in and stick to your guns and you play an attacking style, he's going to clearly Kieran McKenna is going to be coaching Real Madrid next season or something like that at this rate, given what Kompany's trajectory has been. I mean, looking at some of the upcoming games, and we've mentioned a couple of times now the EFL Cup semi-final. We'll start with the game on Boxing Day first. I've got Aston Villa coming up, who just come off of what I don't think can be described as a very impressive win against City. Normally it would be, but City have won 2 games in their last 12 now, I think it is. They are positively awful.
Mm-hmm.
And right now, I want to play City right now, which I thought I'd never say in my life. And Villa coming up on Boxing Day. It's a 3:00 kickoff. How are we feeling about that game? I mean, they've lost 2 of their last 5. They've got some weaknesses. They've shown some fragility with the European schedule. How do you guys feel about the game? What do you think our chances are of getting a good result? We'll start with Bo on that one.
Yeah, so it's funny because Villa is obviously going through a lot of what we went through last year in terms of juggling Europe and juggling the Premier League in general. I do still feel good, especially since this game's at home. I'm hoping that the lads are up for it. I can see a win. I think it's nice to see that Eddie has finally gotten, I think, the exact 11 that he wants to play, and the way he wants to play, especially in front of the fans. So I'm hoping that we will be able to come out, even if it's Boxing Day, come out, start fast, just like we always aim to do, and catch on. It will definitely be tough. We know Unai Emery is a very good coach, very good manager, and he knows how to adapt to certain situations. But I would love to be Emilio Martinez. I cannot stand him. So
I mean, we've had some back and forth results with them in the last couple of seasons, haven't we? I mean, we've had some big wins and we've had some pretty bad losses against them as well. I mean, Mark, who do you think? Is there anyone in the 11 at the moment who you think needs to have a big game against Villa? I mean, the standout name for me would probably be Gordon. Is there anyone else that you think needs a big game?
Probably Fabian Shaw. Because I do think he's, which again in the other one, because he's he's a booking away from a suspension, which you're sort of looking at going, well, that's, if he's out, you're then bringing in Lloyd Kelly, which, look, he might have an amazing game, but when I'm judging him off the last game that he'd played, he just didn't look that comfortable. He's 33 and his age is short. He's been a fantastic servant. He can still do some great things, but I just think we're too reliant, and that's why for me, I've said that I'd rather stick with Jacob Murphy and go and get a centre back in the January transfer window, because I actually think that's what we need. Even if Sven Botman's coming back, he doesn't play on the right side. I just think we need that in there, because I don't think we should be relying on Fabian Shaw that much, and I think sometimes it maybe puts the pressure on that. If our forward players are doing a good enough job and scoring all the goals, then hopefully Fabian doesn't have to do that. But you all look at it and you do look at the threats, like Watkins, Gerrard, Rodgers, and that. So Villa have got players who can hurt us, but we've got players who can hurt them. You'd hope, with Joe Linton back, our midfield can try and battle theirs and get control of that. If you look at the last 2 results that we've had from them as well, we've been quite comfortable in terms of results there. I'm certainly not expecting that on Boxing Day, but you do look at that, It's Tonali going to follow up with another goal? Is he going to go on a goal scoring run at St James's Park? It is just like that. It's one of those things, but you're also then looking ahead and going, well, right, okay, we're playing Villa on the 26th. We've got Man U on the 30th. Does Eddie do anything? Does he rotate? Does he maybe take Gordon out, put Barnes? Because there's going to be something that's going to be needing to be done. It's just one of those things, yeah.
Yeah,
It will be. I mean,
I think that's a good point.
Yeah, I mean, I agree. I mean, you mentioned both teams having attacking players, forward players who can hurt each other. I mean, it does feel like this is going to be a bit of a slugging match. I feel like it could be a relatively high scoring game. Hopefully, it's got a bit more excitement than Usyk Fury 2. I mean, you look at recent records. I mean, we're obviously just coming off a 3-game winning streak in all comps. Villa have gone 3 games without a clean sheet. I think both teams, out of the last 11 games both teams have played, and our last 5, Villa's last 6, because they've played an extra one recently. I think of those 11 games, 10 of them have featured at least 2.5 goals for each team. So we've been involved in a lot of goal scoring recently, both teams. But Villa, you look at their last 5 games, 4 of those last 5, both teams have scored. We've scored first in our last 5 of our last 6. Villa have scored first in their last 5. Both teams are scoring quickly and they're scoring early at the moment. But Villa seem a bit more defensively fragile at the moment. They seem a bit more vulnerable. However, we have also faced objectively worse opposition than Villa have recently. So it's very much in the balance, I think. I do think both teams have centre forwards in good form. John Duran is scoring for fun. Ollie Watkins can come off the bench. They've got a bit more depth at centre forward than we do. Isak can play. He often plays a lot of minutes, and Asula has had a couple of good moments where he looked like he was close to having an impact, but he's waiting for a breakout game, and I think that sort of depth might be a problem for us. I think also we mentioned Anthony Gordon. I think he's
I'm
needing
hoping
a good
that
game.
Asula gets starting the Bromley game and just give him that as the run out and try and get a couple of goals, and then hopefully build his confidence from then.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, you also mentioned you got the Man United game coming up on the 30th away at Old Trafford. Just lost 3-0 in a game to Bournemouth. Statistically, there's a lot of context that comes into statistics in football, but statistically, Man United's defense, their actual shape and structure, has improved under Ruben Amorim. Their individual players, however, are still a liability for them. Clearly, Johnny Evans in the center of defense, he's just not good enough for them. Or Harry Maguire in the game against Bournemouth wasn't good enough for them. Malacia wasn't good enough. They've got a lot of individual errors at the moment causing them problems. With how poor they've been, I want us to go to Man United and win. We've won twice away at Old Trafford in the last 50 years. Once in 2013 and in the League Cup last season, 3-0. So wins there are hard to come by. And it's Man United, they'll probably get some dodgy penalty on VAR or something given to them.
But also, fans will need to make sure that they're tucking their pants into their socks and taking
in case of rats. Yes, yeah. You have to have your rat poison in one hand and your umbrella in the other in case you get caught under the majestic waterfall of Manchester. But yeah, no, I'm hopeful for a good result against Man United away on New Year's Eve. But I think the one that I think everyone's probably most excited for is the 2-legged semi-final in the EFL Cup against a team we've already beaten this season in Arsenal. Bo, how do you rate our chances against them? It's an away leg first, which most people seem to think is a good thing. I'm contrarian on that point, but whatever. How are you looking forward to the semi-final? What do you think our chances are, and do you think we'll make it to a second final in 3 years?
Yeah, Stephen, I at first I kind of was like, oh, you do want to definitely get like the away leg over first, but now that I think about it, it's like, no, would rather come out in the home leg, do what you have to do, get ahead, And then, if you need to play a little bit smarter, a little bit more conservative on the away end, that works too. But, alas, we have to go there first. It is very tough. I know there's a lot of folks who are kind of like, oh, we should go there, try and scrap out a 0-0, 0-0, play tight defense, be smart. And then when it's time for them to come to St. James's Park, then be a bit more expansive, take a couple risks and see if you can nab a 1-0 or 2-0 victory. Personally, I would like us to come out at least a little bit more aggressive. We talk about intensity being our identity, and it would be nice to, even if it's for a good 30, 45 minutes in that first game away, come out, see if we can get some shots on target, see if we can challenge the keeper a little bit, and then kind of see where the chips will fall. Because, in my opinion, even if you go down 1-0 on an away leg, if that next one is at home, anything can happen. It's one of those things where previously I was a bit more worried about Arsenal, but with the way they've been this year, I do feel a little bit better about it. The only team that, in my personal opinion, I would have a bit, I don't want to say scared, but just somebody I wouldn't have wanted to see just yet would be Liverpool, just because they seem to have our number for the most part in terms of just anything can happen on the pitch. So, I feel good about it. I guess we'll see what happens. We'll see what happens in terms of the squad and how we feel. But yeah, it's not a terrible draw in my opinion.
Yeah, I agree. We've talked about Villa and Man United. We still have also got a visit to Tottenham, who are also very beatable at the moment before that first leg against Arsenal. And then I think what will probably define that, if we can even if we do lose, if we can keep it to either a low score or win or draw away at the Emirates, we have the Bromley game on the 12th of January, then a run of very winnable Premier League games, Wolves, Bournemouth, Southampton, Fulham, before the home leg against Arsenal. I think the schedule is lining us up for what could be, if our form is right after January, throughout January and starting of February. I think the schedule is giving us a runway to really get into some confident form before the second Arsenal game. So I'd agree. I'm looking forward to the game. I think it'll be quite fun. My Arsenal supporting friends hate playing against us. One of my best friends, when I messaged him about the draw, said that you were the team that we didn't want. Of all of them, everyone would be saying normally it would be Spurs right now with their form. I don't think any team, considering the other three teams in the semis, we've had 2 wins and 1 draw against them. And that 1 draw was against the team we could never really seem to beat in Liverpool. I think, we seem to be able to get under Arsenal's skin a bit recently. So I'm hoping that we'll do that again. We won't touch on the January window, which will be happening at the same time much, because we'll probably do another episode of this show talking about no one that we're going to sign, because we're not going to sign anybody, and it'll be about 30 seconds long. It'll be an intro, and an outro, but that'll be coming out soon. But boys, thank you very much for joining me. We'll probably do another one of these not long after Christmas, once everyone's awake from the Boxing Day leftovers and the hangovers and whatnot. Hopefully after a good result against Villa. But yeah, thank you very much for joining me. And if you guys enjoyed this episode, please give us a like, a subscribe. Let us know your score predictions for the Villa game and how excited you are for the Arsenal game. And we've been NUFC360, and I'll see you all later.